So I've been putting off this video for some time now because I had this idea last week. I wanted to make this video prior to the well documented 30 June and well anticipated, not really in a positive note for everybody else, but I wanted to make this video before the March and March protest had started. But because of whatever was going on and how I felt like the whatever was going on at that time when it comes to the march, the majority of the story around it. Sorry, I'm just trying to organize my notes so that I can really speak clearly on that. If you can just bear with me. So it has been something of an anticipation of, I would say, uncertainty when it comes to most foreigners, not knowing what was going to happen and not knowing how is that going to, how is this, which now we are sitting with right now, which is the results um, of the 30 June march. And originally I had a few stories that I wanted to tell. I had the first story I wanted to speak about was about the CAB 3 being passed by Senate and the whole process and where we are and what it is and what it means right now and what is the future of Zimbabwean democracy, and philosophize about that, and then also speak about the ZESA deal, the ZESA deal of manufacturing the transformers in Zimbabwe and exporting them to countries like Rwanda, Zambia, Mozambique, Lesotho, and the DRC, to just name a few. So I wanted to speak about this, and I also wanted to speak about the Zimbabwean infrastructure development deal with China, which was leveraged by the minerals, which is the raw materials that are in Zimbabwe. And I'm not going to be talking about that video. I'm not going to be talking about those two topics right now because of what is going on right now. So if you want me to speak about these two topics, if you want to see more, subscribe to this channel and just click on that notification bell so that you can be able to be notified when I have new content coming through. So tonight, I'm speaking about the story of the Zimbabweans being repatriated, and I would say I'm focusing mostly on Zimbabweans because, as it has already been established, I am Zimbabwean, based in South Africa. So I'm going to be speaking about the story that broke out last week, which was published by News 24. But before that, I'm going to play a few videos. I'm going to play one video from the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, and I'm going to play another video from the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, when they spoke on their capacity as the heads of state and during the time of the march. So without further ado, I'm just going to play these videos, and then the third video is going to be from Pakelo Mtagati, and then I think that is where most of the story is going to be coming from. But right now I'm just going to play these two videos so that you can just get the context of how emotional this whole thing is when it comes to where we are right now at the time of recording, which is the 2nd of July. So the video that I'm going to play you, it was posted on Facebook by Zim Papers. I don't know if this is an official. I think it is official Zim Papers TV network on Facebook. So this is the video in question from the president of Zimbabwe speaking.
I appeal to all families and communities to exercise the true African values of compassion, love and caring for one another. More so as we welcome those returning home from the diaspora. Government has put in place comprehensive programs to ensure the seamless, safe, and dignified reintegration of returnees. I'm referring to the current situation between us and South Africa. I don't want to elaborate.
This is the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, speaking in his capacity as the president, addressing the issue of the returnees that have been started to be repatriated. I think we already saw in some of the posts in the news, there were some prominent politicians, which I'm going to also put their names on here, that have donated something, and the government of Zimbabwe has the president of Zimbabwe has approved for this repatriation effort to start. It was a little bit late as compared to other countries. It was a little bit late for the Zimbabwean president or the Zimbabwean government to actually take action. It has been known to be like that. I think it was starting to get embarrassing as to, is the Zimbabwean government ever going to say anything? I think I saw in a lot of comment sections when people were talking about this, there were some questions as to, so what about Zimbabweans? When the Zambians, with I think after the Ghanaians, the Zambians, Malawians, I mean, after the Ghanaians, it was the Malawians and I think Mozambicans and Zambians. Those were like some of the nationals where their countries had already put in place the repatriation process of bringing their people who wanted to be repatriated back to their countries. And for Zimbabwe, it was like, I think it was a week later when this came into place. So right now I'm going to play you a video from the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he was stopped by the media when he was at a Google conference or something like that.
Were you disappointed in South Africa in some ways?
No. I mean, our people exercise their right to protest, which is enshrined in our constitution, and we must applaud that. For the most part, the protests, the marches were quite peaceful. Only a very few incidents. It could have been much worse. And I was very pleased that we were able to hold extensive consultation with a number of people, and we brought to bear the need for peace, need for orderliness, and that's exactly what we had.
Anything worried you?
No, I was not worried. I was actually quite relaxed. Yeah, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Have a good day.
All right. So we saw that what the president of South Africa is saying, and as you can see that it will always be a philosophical thing, I would think, because at the end of the day, it depends on where do you stand. As from the Zimbabwean president speaking, and it really did not want to speak about a lot of things and get into it much. And the president of South Africa spoke about the constitution and says that it is their constitutional right, and the right to protest is enshrined in the constitution of South Africa, and they have that right, and they have been practicing that, exercising that right ever since, and they are still exercising that right as we speak. And the reality of it, and the constitution, which is the theory of how a protest, as it says in the constitution, that it is a peaceful protest, not just a protest, not looting, but a peaceful protest. But I digress. A lot can happen, and some people are opportunists that can go into those places, and then they can start now looting, they can start hurting people. But at the moment right now, there's been a lot of looting that has happened. Not much of violence is from what we are looking at, but every life is valuable, every life is important. But I'm just saying, as compared to other times where a lot of people could have been hurt, but I think because of all these actions and a lot of other African nationals offering themselves to say, okay, we're gonna need to be repatriated back home, I think that also made it a little bit less of a focus on the people, but more of a focus on the South Africans, not focusing on the foreigners directly, but focusing on marching and whatever it is that has been going on. There are a lot of foreigners that have been affected directly, personally, when it comes to this. But I cannot speak for everybody else, because there are a lot of people that have been affected. And while we are at this, I'm going to play you a video from Phakelo where he spoke on his capacity, speaking of what he about a phone call that he had from a Zimbabwean guy. I'm going to play this video, and then after that we're going to look at what exactly the Zimbabweans, what they have went through right now as we speak, and what the Zimbabweans that have now been started to be repatriated. I think the first trip that left, I think it was on the 1st of July. That was when the first trip left Cape Town, to be specific. So let's play you a video from Phakelo Mthakathi where he spoke about this. This video was published on Facebook by MDN TV. So yes, so let's play this video.
Umhla ka-30 so ke ngangilapha ngimemezela umhla ka-30 June 2026 abantu bathi ngiyahlanya ngenza yonke into, but more than 2 million illegal immigrants have left this country. As we are talking right now, we have our intelligence in the borders. People are leaving because they know ukuthi sizoqhubeka nalento. They understand. Today I got a call from a guy from Zimbabwe. We spoke for 30 minutes. He was ebonga abantu base South Africa. Enbonga abantu base South Africa. Ebonga ukuthi nibakhumbuza ukuthi bona bangamadoda ngempela. If you are a man, you are calling yourself a man, and you are here in South Africa. You left your child. You left your wife. You left your relatives. You left your own place, your own land of your forefathers. And you are sitting in South Africa for 5 years without seeing your child. But you got a nerve to confront Phakelo Mthakathi. Ohlala neingane zakho bona ingane zakhe every after 2 weeks. You want to confront me and say I'm xenophobic, I hate Africans. You hate yourself. You hate yourself as an African. You can't leave your child. You can't be away from your child for 2 years. You cannot be away from your child for the whole year. Only soldiers are allowed to do that. Not a person enjoying himself, drinking all the savannas and black label and everything here in South Africa, enjoying that because they say black label in South Africa is more nicer. Is more nicer than the black label in their country. Can you really come to another country just for fun, for food and other things, and leaving your kids alone in your own country? My African brothers, let us bring back the true African spirit. The true African spirit, the first line of defense of any household is a man. Umusu sesa South Africa wena uhleli ubusa ingane zakho ishiye zonke ngokwesintu sethu thina abantu abantsundu. Into umsebenzi wokuqala so ke ngangi.
Yeah, so you heard him here. He is speaking on behalf of, he's speaking on his perspective of what has been going on. And I think whether you like him or not, he has a point there where there are a lot of Zimbabweans, there are a lot of foreigners, not only Zimbabweans, that have been journeying outside of their countries and have been staying away from their children and their families and haven't been seeing their families for a very long time. He has a point there, but I'm just going to say something here also on that note. He has a point on that, and the issue of saying that only like the people who are at war, the soldiers who are out there at war, can stay away from their children and not be at home. But I think the war that we are at war, actually we are at the economic war. This is not the kind of war that I think everybody else would be thinking of when we speak about war, as in like guns and bombs and stuff like that. But at the moment, the most of African countries are at war, at an economic war, where we have got a person has to fight to have something on the table. A person has to fight to be able to look after their own family. So a lot of men are at war. Yes, savannas aside and Amayellow Bonds aside and Amaslay Queens aside, that a lot of African fellow Africans are here in South Africa also for. I think the most important part here is him understanding the fact of Ubuntu, like of the African values, as in, I think you have seen that from the first video that I played you from the president of Zimbabwe. He spoke about that, the African spirit. So the African spirit of being as a man, you are the first line of defense. Your household, you cannot leave your household and and go out and never come back. If anything has to befall your family or your children, you will have to be there. You will have to be the first line of defense and protect and defend your country and defend your household. So he has a point there. But all that aside, in all seriousness, there are a lot of serious repercussions that a lot of fellow Africans have gone through, and him looking at one story and us looking at one story and say, okay, we focus on that story and say, okay, why are you not talking about that? Yes, we cover that, but we also have to cover something that is very, very important. We need to understand that the people that are being forced to be repatriated to go to their home countries, these are families, these are people who have lived in the country for a long time. And as for when it comes to legality and how the person came into the country, I think that can be debated, because at the end of the day, the state of the Home Affairs and the state of the border control in South Africa is in shambles and was in shambles. I would say that right now there's been a lot of changes and a lot of BMA, I think it's called BMA, Border Management Administration or something like that, or BMI, which have been changing things and trying to manage things. And I feel like with better laws and better applications as to how a person can be deemed legal in the country and how long the person can be in the country. And we are going to speak also about what Tibotaj said pertaining Zimbabweans, and there's some misinformation there. I'm going to speak about that. But right now, I'm going to read the story from Facebook from Ashraf Hendricks. I think this is from Cape Town. The original story is from Ground Up, but I'm just going to read this excerpt from Ashraf Hendricks. I'm going to put this graphic also as I read this. It says hundreds of Zimbabwean nationals are stranded outside of the Zimbabwean Consulate in Cape Town, waiting to return home amid rising fears of xenophobia in South Africa. Families have spent several nights sleeping on the pavements, and with a cold front approaching, many are unsure of what will happen to them. You can read about this story with an article written by Matthew Hirsch on Ground Up. I'm going to also put the link of Ground Up also on the screen. And yes, so I'm also going to let you see these photos so that you can also understand the name foreigner. It's, for some people, it's that guy that they saw, or that person that they saw on that documentary selling drugs, or that person that they saw on Facebook post having committed this crime, or that person that they saw getting a job while they are not getting a job. But in that, they are also forgetting that they are children that have been displaced. They're children who were born in this country from illegal or legal parents. That is also not the case. But the case now is about humanity. It's about viewing life as valuable, viewing a human being as a human being, not as an object or as a stereotype. Because if you look at it, you would try to put that person, try to imagine that person as a relative. Try to imagine that person as your grandmother. Try to imagine that man as your uncle. Try to imagine children who have got no idea what happened. They just got picked up and then they just got put into this place and do not even know what is going on right now. And right now, as this post speaks of, the cold front was coming to Cape Town. And this post was posted on the 28th and the cold front happened. And now a few of them have been moved, and I'm also going to put some photos on here where you can see that after people have moved from one place to another, and a lot of things have to be left behind. People have left their possessions, because even the buses that were carrying people, the same way that was happening in Durban for the Malawians, where they were being told to only take a carable bag, a small bag, because the transport that is coming to pick these people cannot accommodate your fridge, cannot accommodate the bicycle that you bought for your child, cannot accommodate the TV that you saved for months to buy that. And the children's clothes. Right now, schools are closed, and some children were at school, and they don't even have time to go and collect the transfer letters, to collect the right things that they need for their children to be able to be enrolled into another school outside of the country. There has been a lot of things that are being left behind. People are leaving their belongings. I'm sure a lot of people are going to leave valuable belongings for them. Some that cannot be replaced, and that is so heartbreaking to see something like that. It is heartbreaking to see something like that. So as of right now, as of the recording right now, on the 2nd of July, there has been as you can see from the previous video that we watched right now, there has been some action that has been taken by the Zimbabwean government to start repatriating Zimbabweans back home. And with that happening and the speed of things happening, a lot of people are still stranded. A lot of people are still needing are still needing help. So if you are able to help and you're able to donate something for these families, for children and all that, you can find the information online about that. You can find other people who are working with Gift of the Givers. Other people are working with on their own personal capacity. I think I know there is a YouTube couple. I think it's I don't know if I remember their name, but I'm also going to put their name here on the screen so that you can see them and go onto their social media page. Then you can see also you can see their efforts, and you can also contribute if you need to contribute to that. And then there has been a lot of people saying that, oh, okay, people that came here the way they came in, why can't they go back the same way they came in? When the land is already hostile, you cannot even risk having to use your own mode of transport. The same reason why they couldn't go home is the same reason why they cannot go home on their own way, because one, it is expensive to start looking for transport to go home right now and live. These people do not even choose themselves to go and sit in the cold right now with their children. If they had the money to do that, they could have left. People are coming here to try to better themselves, to try and look after their families, to try to look after their children. But it is what it is. Some people are feeling like they're getting the short end of the stick, and some people are feeling like, okay, they're not getting what they should have gotten, what somebody else is getting. But if you can look at it, there isn't much that these people are actually taking away from those people who believe that these people are taking anything from them. This is the majority number of undocumented citizens. I mean, undocumented immigrants. It's children. It's mothers that are domestic workers or that work for like very minimal wages. Some people who work as domestic workers, they work 2 days a week, they work 3 days a week, and put that together for the rest of the month, it will be less than 2,000 rand. And I don't think that is taking something that is actually valuable, because if they were getting that much money, if they were getting a lot of money, they were not going to offer themselves to go and sit in the cold for 3-4 days waiting for free transport to go back home. So if we are looking at it logically, this is what we are looking at. These are the people that we are saying that are being said that they are stealing jobs, they are taking this, they are taking over this, they're taking over business. These are the people that are illegal in the country. These are the people that have to go back home. And I understand that the law is the law of the land, the law is the law. But as I said, that the Home Affairs, the border control, all those are the places that needs to be looked at to try to strengthen this, and then going back home without only focusing on wanting to plead and say that these people have the right to stay in the country. Going back home also, this is the time where African leaders need to stand up. African leaders need to look, these are your children. And I would like to plead this to the President of Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa. These are your children. Your children are suffering. Your children are fighting like this to come with their children, as you can see in these photos, with their children. And I can see from the video that I played from President Emmerson Mnangagwa, there was emotion in his voice. There was emotion. There was the hurt of a father seeing his children being treated this way that they've been treated. But let's not go straight and start blaming people who also have the short end of the stick, because the same problems that a lot of Zimbabweans have left the country illegally are the same problems that South Africans are facing right now, that they are fighting and saying, I don't want to leave my country and go elsewhere and look for a better life when somebody else is coming to my country to get a better life. Because they are looking at this thing of the greener pastures that a lot of foreigners, Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, Malawians, Nigerians are coming into South Africa for greener pastures, but the people who are actually South African citizens in the country. We can speak about imaginary borders, we can speak about colonial borders in another video, but right now we need to speak about the reality on the ground, because removing imaginary borders and speaking about and shouting about imaginary borders off the tops of our voices is not going to resolve Africa. What needs to resolve Africa is African leaders standing up and say, okay, I am going to stand up for my children. I am going to be the father of my children. The same way that Pagalem Takati was saying, the president and the political leaders and the community leaders in the countries are the fathers, are our mothers, are our fathers, and they have to fight for us and say, you know what, these are my children, these are my family members. They cannot go outside and look for better opportunities. Let us create better opportunities. So I plead with you, the president of Zimbabwe, that do something. Let's do something right now. As I spoke, I have 2 videos that I'm going to speak about when it comes to the development of Zimbabwe and the development of the infrastructure in Zimbabwe. Right now, the CAP 3 is being approved, and right now the CAP 3 is moving to the next stage. Can we make something out of this? Those who are naysayers saying something about the CAP 3 and saying this is the wrong move, saying this is not the right thing, who can speak and argue about that in another place. But right now, the biggest thing that we need to focus on right now is we need to focus on the development of the country. If you can prove us wrong as the ZANU-PF, if you can prove us wrong and say, you know what, you guys, you are wrong for thinking that there is nothing that we are doing for this country. Now, this is what we are doing for this country. From today up to 2030, we need to start seeing Zimbabweans not leaving their country to go and look for a better life elsewhere, and being comfortable and being happy to stay in their own countries. Nobody leaves their own country comfortably wanting to go and live in a shack or wanting to go and stand in the streets looking for opportunities. Nobody wants to do that. But it's because a lot of people have tried for 5 years, for 10 years in their home country, trying to wait for better opportunities, trying to wait for the government to provide a better opportunity, but it's not coming. Let's do something about these children. Let's do something about our children. These are our children. These are our relatives. These are our fathers. These are our mothers. We come to you and ask for you, the president of Zimbabwe, and say, let's do something about this. Let's not be a laughingstock of the whole world. All over the world, Zimbabweans, Africans, other African countrymen and women are being chased out of different countries because we are being looked as a laughingstock. Let's do something about that. There's another video and another story that I would want to speak about, but I'm not going to play that video. I think I'll put a link of that video, or I'm going to put a little bit of a short clip of that video where Tibotash spoke about Zimbabweans, saying that a lot of Zimbabweans are fighting with Mozambicans and Malawians and stuff like that about taking their jobs and taking and whatever.
Media is winning with this idea that South Africans are xenophobic. Okay? Right. There's this narrative across the continent that we are xenophobic. But the very same crisis is happening. Zimbabweans are tired of Malawians. Yeah. There's a problem right now in Zimbabwe where I say we are also crying foul because we got these guys who are jumping the border and they're taking ordinary Zimbabwean jobs. Yeah.
That is misinformation. A lot of Mozambicans, a lot of Malawians, a lot of Zambians in some parts have been naturalized in Zimbabwe in the early 90s, have been naturalized in the 80s. And a lot of them have got families in Zimbabwe right now. A lot of them have already cultivated their home in Zimbabwe and say, this is where I'm from and I am a Zimbabwean now. A lot of them don't even know home back in Malawi. A lot of them, they don't even know back home in Mozambique, because that's how close these relationships were during the colonial era and even afterwards. So that one is misinformation, and we should not peddle that kind of misinformation, especially for a person like Thibaut Touch. You are a well-traveled man. You are you know things that are going on. You have been in the media for a very long time. So let's not talk about things like that and peddle misinformation to try to agitate people. No, that does not happen in Zimbabwe. So today's video, I'm going to try to end this video here so that I do not have to go further than this. Thank you very much for watching my video. This is a matter of context with Tino, and this is a specific section which I call Devoid of Context, which I speak freely. Devoid of context, as it says. Self-explanatory. I'm Tino. See you in the next video. Peace.